Welcome back to the South Florida Recruiting Report. Marcus Benjamin here representing for On Three Rivals, the South Florida Recruiting Reporter, to bring you just news about South Florida recruiting here in the 2025 season. And today I've got Brian Smith to, to discuss different topics here in recruiting in the state of Florida. He's part of the Locked On Network and is a recruiting analyst. Thanks for coming on today, Brian.
Hey, Brandon, what's going on? Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's been a while. As you can see, I kind of rebranded things and things are a little different now. Things are always a revolving, changing door in this industry, and you just kind of have to adapt and roll with the punches, as my dad likes to say.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. There's no such thing as stability in the recruiting industry.
For sure, for sure. But yeah, so first off, man, it's a big week here in the state of Florida because I think the biggest rivalry game in the state of Florida is happening this week. Of course, that will affect recruiting. I talked or wrote a little bit about the players that are visiting for Miami and Florida State. First off, before we kind of get into that and talk a little bit about the different recruits and the different classes from the big four, I guess you could say now. I mean, you got to kind of say UCF is kind of part of that, right? Since they're in a Power Four conference. So yeah, first off, Miami, Florida State. What do you think? How do you think this game kind of turns out here?
I like Miami by 3. I got them 31-28. I cover Florida State, walked on Seminoles, and I mean, they're at home and all that, but their pass rush is non-existent.
Hmm.
Brendan Sinone from Knowles 24/7 put up a stat on their board talking about how they just can't get pressure. They're like in the bottom 5 in the country and the amount of time the opposing quarterback has to throw. That's not going to work out well when you play quality competition, especially one with a true running game. So I just think Miami will be able to move the ball a little more consistently.
Yeah, I agree. I think Miami by like 6. I think this will be a close game until like maybe the end where Miami comes through with a score. I don't see how Florida State really stops the running game. To be honest, I think they probably do stop it in the first half, just off of pure adrenaline, because that's kind of what these type of games bring. A 2-star prospect is probably going to play like a 5-star in this game, especially in that first half. But then, you kind of realize that 2 stars a 2-star in the second half, and then the 4 and 5 stars really start playing. So I think it's going to be a great game, to be honest, despite what we saw with Florida State, Virginia last week. I think Virginia is kind of a sneaky good team. And I think Miami pulls out a close one. Uh, yeah. So right now when it comes to recruiting or the recruiting rankings, it's close right now when it comes to the big three. Let's talk about them first: Miami, Florida, and Florida State. Miami currently leading of the three schools. But when you look at these different recruiting classes, let's start with Miami. Which recruit do you think is like gonna make the biggest impact? Who could be the Tony or the Vernell Brown of this Miami class?
I mean, it's straightforward. It's Jackson Cantwell. I expect him to be the right tackle for Miami next year. Period. I mean, they've got other guys in the class that are good and all that, but it's full stop because he is on the field, off the field, socially, everything that you're looking for. It doesn't matter where he would have went. He could have fit in. And for those that haven't seen it, he can bench over 500 pounds already. He's got it on video. Like, this is the rarest of the rare. He may be the best offensive tackle prospect that I've seen all around in terms of upside and floor. There's just no way that he doesn't play basically right away. We can talk about Miami's class in a million different ways, but it starts with Jackson Cantwell, and you're probably going to lose Francis Mauigoa to the NFL draft. Not saying it's a lock that Jackson comes in and plays. Maybe they move him to guard. He could play guard for a year or something too. That's possible. And then move him to tackle the next year, something like that. There's a lot of different ways it could go. But, I mean, Jalen Waters will probably play pretty early. It's hard to say. But I like Cantwell. I just think, they're going to lose both tackles and they're going to lose Coop. That's three guys. One of those spots is going to end up being his. I'm picking right tackle.
I hear you, and I don't think there's any doubt that Francis Mauigoa is going to be drafted in this next upcoming draft. So, yeah, might as well plug and play Jackson Cantwell. Really smart kid. If you ever get the chance to talk to him, he's just super smart, very polished on the field, off the field, shot put champion. I mean, there's Olympic genetics in this kid, and he's a grown man out there, even though he's still, not technically an adult yet. So excited to
Yeah.
see what he can do. But for me, I really like Samarian Wingo. To be honest, I really think he's one of those explosive players that will definitely make an impact. I think he's the thing about him is that he's got a little bit more size than a Malachi Tony. So I think he's probably just as explosive and can catch the ball like in traffic or when he's open. Of course, I think he can do it all, and I think he's continuing to get better. And he's a humble type of kid, and I think he's a hard worker. And I think Miami's got a real gem with him, and it's a great job by that staff to fight off the likes of Florida, which he was favored to commit to for a while, and South Carolina towards the end. So Hurricanes, I think, definitely have two gems there with Cantwell, the 5-star from Missouri, and then also Samarian Wingo, 4-star wide receiver from St. Augustine.
I like Vance Spafford a lot too. He's a great slot receiver.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how went with Van Spafford instead of the local kid, Jason Lopez. That's an interesting recruitment in itself, just because Lopez, J Rock, wants to play basketball as well. He's actually a really good basketball player. I don't know if you've ever seen his video, his tape, or
Oh
anything
yeah,
like that.
he's
Yeah,
legit.
yeah, he's a high level kid on the hardwood. So I think that option is the reason why maybe Miami went with Spafford. Spafford is faster. Just you can't teach speed, and that is an interesting choice though, and it's going to be interesting to see those two careers, develop over time to see who has the better career. Who do you think has the better career, Jason Lopez or Van Spafford?
If Lopez wants to play both sports, I'll go with Spafford. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not trying to be mean, but that's really hard. Coaches are the most stubborn people on planet Earth. They don't like it when there's change, and changing your schedule is part of that. I mean, they may let him come up there, but somebody else will end up taking that spot. That's just how that works, in my opinion.
yeah,
He'll play, but Spafford's a guy I think will be a 3-and-out player for Miami.
yeah. I agree with you there. All right, so let's move on to the Florida State class. I mean, this is a class that is pretty impressive as well. You got a ton of South Florida guys. I've already mentioned Jason Lopez. You also have a Brandon Bennett in there, and it's also Tadarius Hughes. As far as South Florida guys, who kind of stands out to you in this class?
Darius Hughes is a really unique one if they keep him. I want to mention him first just on that point. Syracuse, Miami, and other schools are still talking to him. That is a 6'1 plus free safety, strong safety, nickel. I don't know where he'll end up playing. I know you're familiar with him as well, Marcus. I really
Yeah,
think Hughes is a very good football player. That's the kind of guy that Tony White's defense, the new defense coordinator for FSU, he could use in a bevy of different ways. That would be a hard one to lose. They got Chauncey Cannon, obviously, in the class this past when was it? Spring they got him, maybe early summer. That's a really good player. Isaiah Williams needs to get healthy, but he's going to be their pass rusher of the future. Ernest Rankins is a big guy that is a power player as a defensive end. Jay Timmons, he's the son of Lawrence Timmons. For those you don't remember, he played linebacker for the Knowles and played in the league for a long time for the Steelers. Devin Carter, he's Dexter Carter's kid. He's another guy that played in the league for a long time. He was at FSU from '86 to '90. Played for the Niners and the
Oh
Jets.
wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's his kid. That's Dexter's kid. Xavier Tiller is a rare flex tight end. Like, they got athletes. My question is, can they add one or two more guys? Like, skill spots, Florida State's good in this class, no doubt. Brandon Bennett's a kid we're both familiar with. He can fly out of American Heritage. All these guys can run. Did they get enough linemen on the offensive side? That's been their Achilles for 15 years. Florida State needs better linemen, and they're starting to get some of those, but they're trying to flip a few kids too. Maybe one of the Florida commits, maybe it's Chancellor Campbell or somebody else. Who knows? They need at least one more offensive tackle. Offensive line overall, like Jacoby Green's an underrated guy. He's really good. He's from the greater Tallahassee area. They're okay every other spot. I just need to see if they can get one more guy on the offensive line to feel really good about their class.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a really strong class, to be honest with you, especially them coming off a 2-10 season
Oh, yeah.
last year.
It's amazing.
For
It's
for them to
amazing.
have a strong class, yeah, for them to have a strong class like this is really credit to that staff and just what they're actually selling to these kids. Chauncey Cannon, definitely an outstanding player out of the Panhandle. That was a player that Miami was very much interested in. Isaiah Williams, although we haven't seen him play in a while due to injury, he definitely is a fast linebacker. I think that's a really great get, and they finally got him. I don't know how many times he's flipped. I mean, he probably has the record for the most flips of a recruit ever. But it seems like he's settled in with Florida State. In fact, that Florida State started off with a good season makes me feel like he's kind of locked in with the Knowles. Brandon Bennett, like I said, like you said, is a player we're familiar with. Darrell Bell, another outstanding player from down here in South Florida. Tadarius Hughes is an interesting one. I'm not sure if he will stay with the Knowles. He's saying all the right things. Nebraska, I know, is interested. Miami, of course, is interested as well. So it'll be interesting if he eventually signs with the Knowles. If he does, that'll be great for this class, just because he can play, I think, corner or safety. He's a long corner. He can cover about every area on the field. I wouldn't play him at a nickel position, but I could definitely see him at boundary corner and free safety. So we'll see if he locks in with the Knowles long term. You kind of never know these days, but the Seminoles definitely have a strong class, and we'll see. We'll see if they add some more guys to this class, and I think they definitely have a chance if they beat Miami. If they beat Miami on Saturday, I think there's a chance that they could definitely add more players to their class. All right, let's go to Florida, man. Florida, this is a class we kind of talked about right before we got on this pod that we're expecting for this class to implode at some point. There's a lot of players that I think may be looking elsewhere. CJ Brona is a talented player. He says he's locked in with Florida, but I'm not sure if that staff explodes, that he'll stay. Carson Baker is another talented player out of that class that may be looking elsewhere. Caden Hall. What do you think of this Florida Gators class?
It's really good. I mean, they got guys from an athletic standpoint. You go, yeah, that's what you're looking for. And then you talk about like NFL measurables. Like, they've got a guy, he's a little raw, but Marquez Daniel is a kid that lives fairly close to me in Alabama. He's 6'5". There aren't a lot of 6'5" receivers, Marcus. I mean, he's one of those guys, a great kid. That's a kid that Florida's been recruiting since he was a freshman in high school. They put in the work, but he's attached to the staff. And that's something I just want to reiterate to people. Never forget, kids pick coaches more than they pick schools. A lot of fans don't like hearing that, but that's how it works for every school. So if this staff gets canned, I'd say they'll lose at least a third of them conservatively. and it could be as many as half. Which ones it ends up being, that's, of course, the big question. I can't say for sure, but the out-of-state kids in particular, I would imagine it's going to be really hard for the Gators to keep them. And guys like the Ford kid from Duncanville, Kevin Ford, Davion Gross, another kid from the greater Dallas area, those are elite recruits. Yeah, good luck. So I don't know which one's the player in this class, but they're all so good. Like, Florida's done a great job considering the season they had last year. But it's about to go boom anyway. I don't think it's going to matter.
Yeah, you think they beat Texas this week?
I think that's a very good pick for somebody because at some point Florida's going to have a game where they hit a few plays on offense. The defense is actually pretty good. They played very well against Miami, all things considered. They just got wore out because they were on the field the whole day. You know what I mean? If they could actually hold on to the ball and let their defense rest a little bit, what a concept. Florida would be pretty good team, but the defense at some point might start quitting too if the offense doesn't do something. That's the other side of the coin. So Arch Manning has not been good. That is very well documented. Texas has been beat up a little bit at running back. We'll see what happens there, but maybe they can kind of hold on a little longer if they beat Texas or at least make it close. But I still think Napier is going to get fired the week going into the Georgia game. They got a bye week. Usually you fire coaches on bye weeks. I think that's the week he gets canned.
That'd be a tough situation for the Gators, already having a tough season. Their only win on the year against Long Island, which is kind of crazy just to say in itself. But yeah, this class, I think if it keeps on going the way the season keeps on going the way that it's been going, yeah, I expect a lot of guys to jump ship. Kendall Gurville, I'm expecting him to probably flip to Texas. Texas finished second for Kendall Gurville. They're still in contact from what I hear. So I think that's a likely destination. Hezzy Kent, that's an interesting one as well. Oregon was involved. Miami was involved in his recruitment. I could see him flipping to either one of those schools just in case Napier is fired. Will Griffin, I think he still probably stays.
He's a Gator lifer, brother. His whole family are Gators.
Yeah, I think he stays with the Gators no matter what happens there. Malik Morris, I think that's another kid that probably ends up staying with the Gators no matter what happens there, just because I just don't think there's a lot of other schools that are really involved in the recruitment at this time. Caden Hall, yeah, I think he probably flips to Florida State. I think I could see that happening.
Yep.
For sure. And CJ Hester, I'm hearing a lot of Missouri buzz with CJ Hester. So I think he could possibly flip to Missouri. These other guys I feel like will probably likely stay. But if you lose those guys, the ones that we talked about, this is a class that's probably going to finish maybe in the top 40. If they lose those two Texas guys, if they lose CJ Brona, if they lose Gurville, and Kent, Baker, Hall, yeah, Tyler Chacombe. I did hear there was some Georgia buzz. He's a Georgia kid. I did hear there was some Georgia buzz there. So I think they offered after he committed. So they kind of came into the picture late, but still, I think, playing for the hometown or the home state, I think might be appealing to him if Napier is indeed fired. So that's gonna be the most interesting class to watch for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think there's gonna be a ton of change with the Florida State or the Miami classes, but that Florida class is gonna turn upside down.
I think what do you think the over-under is if Billy does get canned like the week of the Georgia game? What's the over-under on the minimum number of players that leave that class? I would say 6 is like minimum.
Yeah, that was going to be the number for me. Like the number that just jumped out to my head when you said that was 6.
Yeah, that's a lot. But
yeah,
is it out of the question that it's 9 or 10? No, it's not, because everybody recruit. Like Kevin Ford, he had offers from 40 schools. You know what I mean? Like Bruno had it, what did he run? Like 10-3-3 this spring or something in the 100? Like he's going to be able to pick another school. LSU, Florida State, Miami, whatever he wants to do. So, yeah.
Right.
I think that Florida's in a lot of trouble. It's still a top 5 job, in my opinion, as far as head coaches go. It's the easiest job of the big three because they got that SEC moniker. But right now, that program has just been run into the ground. Like they've just made bad decision after bad decision. So, and they're paying for it. There's no way around it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So of those three schools, who do you think ends up with the best class, 26?
I'm going to go Miami because they're so well organized and they're in position to like to some of the Florida kids. What are the odds they don't get at least one of the Florida kids on their signing day list? I'd say pretty low. Florida State will probably get a couple as well, but like I think having, I mean, I know it's very low hanging fruit. Having a future NFL All Pro offensive tackle in your recruiting class gives Miami the edge. Like I am all in on Jackson Cantwell being an all time great player. The family, the personality, the natural gifts. Obviously, both his parents are Olympians. That kind of helps. All that, and then they just do a good job of recruiting all around. And I'm going to throw out another one that somebody you know well. I wouldn't be surprised still if Derek Cooper ended up at Miami. Would not surprise me. He's currently committed to the Longhorns. So I'm going to go there. Florida out of the three is definitely going to be in the bottom. Florida State's class, I think, has a good chance to end up in the top 10, especially if they get Caden Hall. You beat me to it on that. But I don't think it'll be quite as good as Miami's class. It'll be close, but I like the gains just slightly.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you as well because I think Miami has a really good chance to flip someone. There's a lot
Oh,
of players that I think they're that's still on the radar for them. Nolan Wilson being one of them, Tank Jones. Although
yeah.
those are like long shots, I still feel like there's a chance. There's always a chance with this class. Miami's pretty good when it comes to spreading around, the NIL money, and I think it's possible that they could entice a kid to flip from whatever school that they're at to the Hurricanes down the line, whether it be one of those two players, whether it be a Derek Cooper, whether it be a Calvin Russell, or a James Johnson. One of these players, I think, has a good chance to flip to Miami. And if they do, then I think Miami is a lock to win recruiting in the state. Now that I mentioned those names, and you also mentioned Derek Cooper as well, man, like let's first start with Derek Cooper. He's saying everything, all the right things about Texas. He was supposed to visit this weekend to Florida State, and from what we know here at On Three Rivals, that he's no longer taking that visit, which sounds like he's probably locked in with the horns here. Do you think he flips or he ends up signing with Texas?
I'm going to go with flips. I think it'll be
Oh,
Miami, maybe even Georgia. Because
okay.
Derek, I mean, we both like Derek, and he's always been nice to everybody. There's no such thing as
Yeah.
consistency with his recruitment. There's no other way to put it. He's never been consistent because he's such a nice guy. He has a hard time saying no. Derek he always wants to take trips and all that other stuff. But I don't consider him, if he was committed to Miami right now, I wouldn't really consider him committed to Miami. He's never going to sit still. It's just going to be the last one standing. And he could be a kid that ends up transferring too. He's not ever comfortable with just one spot. So
Hmm.
Miami, Georgia, Florida State, it could be any of them. If he doesn't go to Florida State this weekend, that doesn't mean he won't visit for another game. So it's interesting, but we'll see what he does in the end. But right now, I think he'll end up flipping.
You know what? I'm gonna say that he ends up staying with Texas. It,
Okay.
it just seems like him flipping to watching highlights of Derek Cooper. It just seems like he would is gonna stay there because of one big reason, and I think it's because he's the lone back taken in this Texas class, and I think that's a really big factor for him. I would say Florida State would be in the mix if they got him on campus because Florida State doesn't have a running back commit right now.
True.
So I think that would have been appealing. So, but the fact that I don't know what Texas told them, they're playing a little Texas Hold'em, you know, uh, I to not go to Florida State this weekend. It would be the ideal situation. I think Florida State has a legit chance to upset Miami just because they're at home. They're coming off a loss. If you're a betting man like I am, that's kind of a recipe for disaster. A home dog against your rival. You're coming off a loss. You have an extra day to prepare because the game was on a Friday. All those elements smell like it's an upset for Florida State. And if they pull it off and you're going to say, okay, well, Derek Cooper wasn't in the building when it happened, that'd be a shame for Florida State, because, I think they probably, of all the schools, as far as the recruiting situation, I think they probably had the best opportunity because Ohio State has Favor Akee, and Georgia has Jay Lamar, and Miami has Javian Mallory committed. All one running backs in the class, but like I said, there's only one running back committed to that Texas class. He likes that fact, and Texas is one of the top schools when it comes to NIL as well. And it's going to be hard, I think, for a team to kind of entice Cooper to be like, hey, this is a better situation here at said school, given that situation he has over there at Austin.
It could be, but I wouldn't bet on where he's going. That I can tell you. It just, when he signs, let me know. That's kind of how I look at Derek's recruitment.
I'm sure when he signs, the world will know. Talented player out of Chaminade, Montana. Let's talk about another talented player out of South Florida, and that's Calvin Russell. Calvin Russell currently committed to Syracuse. I think that puzzled a lot of people that he would choose Syracuse. Obviously, Fran Brown doing a great job in recruiting South Florida in general. But Syracuse, to me, still kind of an average program when it comes to football nowadays. This is not the days of Donovan McNabb and Marvin Harrison yet, at least. Yeah, they had a great upset win last year against Miami, and they did beat Syracuse. They did beat Clemson this season, but they seem like they're just still a middle of the line type of team. This is not a team that I expect to challenge for the ACC at all. Of course, he's a South Florida kid from a perennial program in Miami Northwestern. It's a program that Miami generally does get a few kids over the years. But the most notable lately, Cameron Kitchens. So my question to you, Brian, does he stay with Syracuse or does he flip?
That's a really interesting one. I think the hold up there, it's kind of like it is with J-Rock. He's serious about wanting to play hoops. From what I understand, Mario's not all that enamored with that. He can't say it openly, but he's not. So I think if he goes somewhere, it won't be Miami. And I know that's not what a lot of the people that watch your pod want to hear, but the kid wants to play hoops. Mario's not enamored with that. So where it would be, LSU or Michigan, probably, if it's not Syracuse. I haven't heard any buzz lately about it. I'm sure Florida State's still talking to him some too. I don't think it matters if Florida's talking to him, but they need to try to get 5 guys in this class by the end of it. But that class, dude, I'm telling you, it is going to implode. I think I might have undershot it at 6 is the minimum. It's just looking. I'm kind of looking at the class right now. 8 might be the better number, but anyway, if he ends up going somewhere else, I just don't think it'll be within the state of Florida. I think Calvin's going to leave. LSU, certainly a possibility. Michigan's like, how hard would it be, Marcus, to sell Bryce Underwood? I mean, if you're Calvin, that's got to be enticing, right? I mean, that's got to be enticing. So those are possibilities. But he has a very special relationship with Fran Brown. I mean, maybe Fran is just that guy that he can just sell people. He's gotten numerous Florida kids to commit. He's got kids committed already from the class of 27 that are really good players. Wouldn't be shocked if he stuck it out. But if it is a change, it's not going to be Miami, in my opinion, because of the basketball thing. It's got to be somebody that openly is cool with him playing hoops. There are very few coaches that like
Yeah,
that.
I agree with you there too. I don't believe it's going to be Miami. He is very adamant about playing basketball. Every time I speak to him, that's definitely a goal for him. It's Syracuse just seems like a weird place for him to go to. From what I understand or believe, I think the family wants him away from South Florida. A lot of distractions for him down here. Um, so I think him going to a far off school in the north, I think would be a better situation. I do think Michigan is in play here.
Oh yeah.
I do believe so because Michigan has had a better basketball program than Syracuse in these past few years. And from what I understand, he has a strong relationship with the basketball coach over there who used to coach over here at FAU.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Good call. Good call.
Yeah, so he has had a relationship with him since he was down here. So I think that is definitely a possibility. He's already has a relationship with Bryce Underwood, from what I understood. I think they threw and caught footballs together at some point. So I think that is definitely, a possibility just because Michigan is just in a better place. I mean, Michigan is a team who won the national championship a couple years ago. I think maybe people kind of forgot about that. But yeah, I think Michigan definitely could be in play here. I'd say Miami very unlikely to get a Calvin Russell added to the class, but they're still pushing though. Especially with his best friend Malachi Tony just balling like a dog over there at Miami already. I think him seeing that is definitely puts Miami still in play for Russell, but I think it's unlikely that he stays home to Miami.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Calvin's one of those kids that really enjoys the process and getting to know people. He's a gregarious personality, a good guy. It could change, but right now he's committed to Syracuse, and he's been committed for a while. So I think there's a good chance that he sticks with him.
Yeah, agreed. All right, lastly, James Johnson, interesting talent here. Transferred from the Fort Myers area to Miami Northwestern. By the way, we were watching highlights of Calvin Russell here at wide receiver. I think this was mid-season last year, mid-season highlights. But James Johnson also on the same team now, Miami Northwestern. They got a big game coming up this week against Miami Central. That's usually the biggest game of the year here down here in Miami-Dade County. And Johnson is a guy who's not really kind of shy about where his interests are. So he's kind of openly expressed interest in Miami and Florida. Those two teams are the ones that he's most interested in. And we've already talked about how Florida, not so good of a situation that you might be wanting to go into. Miami, they're a top 5 team right now. Even if they lose against Florida State and they end up running the table, they'll probably still go to the ACC championship game. So it seems like a no-brainer if he flips. But once again, this is a guy committed to Texas. So he's been to Austin twice, I believe, so far. So I think it's going to be tough to flip him as well. Do you think he sticks with his commitment to the Longhorns?
I think that's one that I would put at the top of the most likely to flip because what was he committed for a week to Georgia, then he flipped to Texas.
Yeah,
I think this is just NIL. That's it. If you're committed for a week and you flip, I'm not buying it. That's a kid that's looking at the money. And if that's the case, anything's possible. We both know Miami's got a ton of NIL, so I wouldn't be surprised he signs with the Hurricanes.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either, just because Miami doesn't really have a ton of D tackle type of players committed to this class here. They got Tyson Bacon that probably can play inside and outside, and they just got a commitment from Frederick Santius. Florida talent who was committed to FAU, so that's a nice gift for them. But they don't have a big name. I think like that big splash name, who can play inside three technique type of player, that they could get here and really develop on the next level. There's not many. There's not a lot of schools who have two defensive line coaches who played in the NFL. With Miami, with Damian Lewis and Jason Taylor. I mean, Jason Taylor was at the Dolphins Jets game the other day wearing his gold jacket. That's not that. If that's not an indication of just kind of where you could be as a recruit, like seeing, hey, look at my coach, he's at the game watching his son play against his former team with a gold jacket on. I mean, that's kind of where you want your life to kind of end up. Like, I wish, like I think I would imagine a lot of players are wanting to kind of be in Jason Taylor's shoes by the end of his career. So that is always going to be, I think, a possible destination. But I agree with you, man. This seems like it's all about the Benjamins, baby. And I think he's just maybe just going to the right financial situation for him. I think you can't really blame him for that, or any recruit for that matter. I think if there's a situation where that can benefit you and your family, maybe future generations, definitely I would probably would take that offer. But I think Texas is going to be tough to beat, as always. Everything's bigger in Texas, and maybe the money is also bigger in the Lone Star State compared to other programs. So I think he sticks with Texas when it's all said and done.
Wouldn't shock me. They got a lot of influence. That's a big brand. It wouldn't, good school, all those things. Southeastern Conference. They've got a lot of advantages as well.
Yeah, awesome. Are you going to be in Tallahassee for the game?
No, I got a podcast right afterwards. So if I go to the game, there's no way to pod. So it makes it difficult. But definitely looking forward to it. This is one of the reasons I got into the recruiting world. Was Florida State's Miami rivalry. The way they recruited was different. The defensive ends, how they always use speed over size. Both those programs really changed college football in the late 80s, early 90s. And everybody kind of has basically done the same thing ever since. Yeah. So this is a great game, and I'm glad they're both good again. Yeah. Marcus, when was the last time they were both good? I mean, it's been a minute, brother.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a while. It has been a while. I'm trying to think,
it's been over a decade. They were both legitimately teams that could finish at the top 10.
Right.
Which is sad, but it's true.
Yeah. I feel like I want to say around 06, where they were both legitimately both good teams. Both of them had some runs. Of course, Florida State won in 2013. Miami was not good in those years. And then Miami had a really good season 2017. I'm not sure how good Florida State was, but it's one of the more interesting series, to be honest. It's a rivalry game that made me fall in love with college football, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
I'm dating myself here, but I saw Wide Right 1 in 91, I believe it was. And ever since that game, I've just been kind of in love with college football, in love with that rivalry game. It's my favorite game to watch. I think that Oklahoma, Texas, and Ohio State, Michigan are my top 3 rivalry games that I just love to watch. I probably would throw Auburn, Alabama in there, maybe, and maybe in a top 3 or top 4. But yeah, just kind of watching that rivalry, then watching Wide Right 2, and then watching the several big games that we've seen across the years. It's just been amazing to watch. And then now that I'm doing this recruiting stuff, I'm watching these kids grow up playing each other in high school and then playing each other in this game. And this is gonna be fun to watch. I mean, former teammates are gonna be playing with each other. I believe Damari Brown played with Earl Little. You got Lil Wayne McCoy over over there who I think played with, I know he played with Ezekiel Marcelin at Miami Central. And there's just a ton of like crossover guys, from South Florida playing in this game. So it's going to be fun to watch as always.
Absolutely, man. And it's going to be a good weekend of college football. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining me today, Brian. Once again, he's part of the Locked On Network coverage for Florida State, and he's also a recruiting analyst, kind enough to join me this morning. Enjoy the week, enjoy the games this weekend, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Take care, Marcus. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. That's going to wrap it up for the South Florida Recruiting Report. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast and this channel here on YouTube, and make sure you're locked into my articles on On3 Rivals, where I will, of course, continue to produce recruiting stories from the South Florida area. Until the next episode.